Hey there, I'm Neil. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm the host of my new podcast, Pause and Rewind. I'll be chatting to changemakers, thought leaders, and role models who all share a common goal. They're striving to make the world a more inclusive place. And let's face it, we need it. Each guest has a unique story when it comes to doing their thing, and we often know who people are in the now. But how much do we really know about them? Pause and Rewind takes a moment to explore the experiences in my guest's life that led them to where and who they are now. Because everyone loves an origin story. We'll dive into tales, anecdotes, and what makes our guests tick. So, are you ready to pause and rewind? Hello there, and welcome to this episode of Pause and Rewind, where I am chatting to the gorgeous Thea Bardot. I have got to know Thea over the last couple of years, and I came across Thea's profile on LinkedIn. And since then, we have become friends, and they are absolutely wonderful. Thea is the CEO and founder of Lightning Travel Recruitment, a recruitment agency that is committed to doing things differently. And they're also a linked influencer. Their content is brilliant. It's packed full of information, great practical takeaways for organizations and individuals, as well as humor, sass, vulnerability, and a real kind of like, this is who I am attitude, which I love. So I know Thea, on that level, I was really excited to dive into their story. We actually share, a bit in common, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to, pop a trigger warning there, and encourage you to look after yourself while listening. We do cover conversations around suicide and mental health, and just generally the fact that life can be challenging and a struggle and difficult family relationships. So if you need to take a break while listening, please do so. But it was a beautiful conversation nevertheless. It's one that goes off script. Thea is has ADHD. I am undiagnosed, but Thea's pretty certain of mine. And so yeah, it does go off script slightly, but it's a wonderful conversation. Please enjoy. Let me know what you think. Here it is. Hey Thea, it is so good to see you. Welcome to Pause and Rewind.
Thank you so much for having me. And the last time I saw you, we were on a little dance floor together, right?
We were dancing to Blue, actual Blue performing live at the Natural History Museum. It was amazing.
Yep. And I will never forget the service person next to us saying, "Were these big back in your day?"
That was a real reality check for me as I blasted out every single word.
The lyrics that no crumbs were left. Not
Not
one.
at all, not at all. I still love them.
Yeah.
Um, Life has changed for you a lot. What does the world look like for Thea Bardot right now?
Well, I only realized the other day because it was on my calendar. It's been a year since I changed my name officially.
A year, I know, because I saw you on the day that you changed your name.
Yeah, which is wild. Like I remember it being like my whole world on that day, and like 1 year later, it's like just I don't want to say I've normalized it, but I kind of low key have. Um, the world right now for me is a world where I can finally see a future for me, and I couldn't have said that a year ago. Like I was really hanging on to the hope that I would feel that way. Um, but yeah, right now I'm like for the first time in my life, I'm looking ahead, I'm planning ahead, I'm looking after myself. Like as a trans person in this society, that is really a hard place to get to. Um, and I always have to recognize my privilege in my journey on that. But yeah, I'm in a new city, I'm from Glasgow. And just yeah, really enjoying life right now.
I love it. And I love seeing it as well. I love what you share on socials, the bits of your life that you allow people into. And you're a pretty open book. I mean, when it comes to everything that you've been through recently, you're very open and it is amazing to see. For those people that don't know what you do, tell us a little bit about Lightning Travel Recruitment, what you do professionally, that kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. I am absolutely an open book. Um, I don't know how not to be.
I love it.
I remember like a few years before I set this business up, I had a really toxic workplace. And I'm sure anyone listening to this podcast that might be in one or might have survived one will be able to really empathize with this. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I was just told on multiple occasions, like I was a gay man at this time, like stop doing that, stop behaving like this, like that is so gay. Like hearing those terms,
Mm,
it just lit a fire within me that I was like, F this. Like I am gonna do everything I can to be myself in a workplace. I was undiagnosed ADHD and autistic at that time, and I was masking like at a master level, like a boss level master. And it wasn't until the pandemic hit when we just had to stop that I was like, oh my gosh, I've been masking so hard, I don't even know who I am anymore.
mm,
And that is not okay, Hans, at all. So yeah, I set up Lightning. Um, Lightning, we work in the luxury travel space, which is troublesome to say the
mm,
least. At the very top, it's lots of cis white male presenting people of a certain age. It's very much we've always done this energy. It's very much, yeah, but here's a nice familiarization trip and here's some champagne lunches and let's brush that under the rug. So I set up the business for people like me, people that didn't see themselves represented in not only recruitment agencies, but in those businesses. Um, that's anyone that's been othered. That's not queer people. That's people that just are very aware when they're the only person in the room that is like them. People that have been mistreated by managers, by workplaces, and people that ultimately just want to find a company where they can literally be the authentic self walking into that door at 9 a.m. or sitting virtually and working in their bed, whatever they're doing. So yeah, set up Lightning. And Lightning has just been incredible because in line with Lightning's growth has been my own personal growth. So when I set up the business, I identified as a cis gay man, and five years later, I think, five next month. Um, yeah, I'm now a trans non-binary person that is very vocal, very much providing representation for the trans community. And it's just happened hand in hand. Just sharing my story. Storytelling is the main part of my brand, but also just holding people a little bit accountable for what they're doing, both in the travel industry and beyond. And that's how we got to meet because I fell into the ED&I space as well.
absolutely. Well, I'd been following your journey for quite a while before we actually met, and LinkedIn. You know, you are a LinkedIn influencer, and I feel that your unmasking and your ability to say, I don't give a fuck, this is who I am, and I'm going to call you out and I'm going to educate you my way is the absolute beauty of you and that storytelling and your own growth and development as well. It's something that I fell in love with way before I met you and following your work. Um, how did that all start with the LinkedIn side of things and really thinking I'm going to put metaphorical pen to paper and bring people along on this journey of queerness and neurodivergence and transness and all of that.
Honestly, I wish there was like this eureka moment. I don't even really remember when when it happened. Um, I literally, and I kid you not, this is the story. So the linked influencer, for anyone listening that has not heard that term before, it is a thing, and
Yeah, it's a
it's
thing.
hilarious because if you told 21-year-old me that I was going to be like well regarded on a professional workplace platform,
Top
like.
voice, top voice.
So LinkedIn about 3, 4 years ago, without telling anyone, just decided to give people these top voice badges. They're like a blue tick on LinkedIn. And My email was not the one that I use now. It wasn't linked to my account. So they'd been emailing this account wanting to get like a quote from me about it. But I didn't know anything about it. So I literally just turned on LinkedIn one day, was part of this amazing group of people. Um, and then it's just grown from there. It was honestly wild. But in terms of sharing my story, what I had found was the representation, even amongst the community that there was, didn't represent me.
Mm.
Um, and I saw lots of amazing trans influencers existing purely as trans influencers. I didn't really see anyone in the workplace that I'd seen openly transition, that I had seen a workplace support through that transition, and had seen representation within a workplace setting. So I was like, it's really important for me to, if I'm gonna do this, I'm doing it for people that have known me as my dead name, have seen me in an office environment, and then through my storytelling, if there's any other trans people in their business, in their lives, in and out of the workplace that are going through what I'm going through, they'll have a reference point. Like, I don't have to explain that to you from an ED&I perspective. It's most people don't know a trans person, so it's really important. I knew one trans person before transitioning, and every trans person is different. We're all unique, we're all beautiful, we're all on our own journeys, on our own timelines. And in sharing my story, I wanted to say this is what I'm going through, but it's one of one right now. Um,
Absolutely.
and yeah, like I'm autistic AF, I'm ADHD, and for me, sharing that story, it's been my therapy. It's like this is what I want to see content-wise on my feed, and I don't see it. So there's amazing platforms, there's amazing people like you that are speaking your truth, but there's not enough of it. Like I want to see a queer LinkedIn, you know?
Yep.
And I want
Same.
and there's not that there, but also we don't really need to educate. Well, I was about to say we don't need to educate the community, but we absolutely do. We absolutely need to educate certain parts of the community. But in educating allies that didn't know they were allies, we are creating allies. And that's been the beauty of my journey is like the messages I get from mums of trans youth that are asking me for resources and advice and saying, look, I can see you and it makes me see a future for my kid. That is why I will keep forever, as long as people will want to listen to me. And even if they don't want to listen to me, I'm going to still carry on doing it. Sharing my truth, you know?
This is true, and that I know that there is no stopping you. You do you don't just tap into your identity, you tap into your professional experience as well as your lived experience, and you do it in such a way that brings people along. You're not afraid to be vulnerable. You're not afraid to be really fucking funny with the way you word things. Um, did you did you always know that you had that in you when it come to the way you communicate?
It's a really interesting question. So I was told at school and like I studied English, start writing how you talk.
Yes.
And now ignored that and I literally write how I talk.
I do too, and I love it. I read back and I'm like, that sounds like me. I submitted something last year and they gave it back to me, an edited version, and I didn't see myself in it. And I actually I really pushed back.
It's so funny because I give that advice to people about their CVs. I'm like, show your friends and family, read it back to yourself in a mirror. If that doesn't reflect you, you don't want it
Yeah.
because you're gonna be someone you're not. Like, and that the power again of authenticity, I will say it again and again and again. Use a bloody emoji. Like, like you if you're using them to your mates, use it on LinkedIn.
Yep.
It's like write how you talk. It's just there's so much rubbish on LinkedIn and there's so much clickbait in media nowadays everywhere. I think people are really searching. Like I always say, actually, Ben Pesce always says to me, you are the Facebook mom of LinkedIn. And I'm like, that is a read and a fact. Like,
I'll take it.
I'll take because I am. That is my brand. My brand is like millennial Facebook now mom that used to upload 100 pictures of her night out and writes about a lovely time with me and my mates. That is the content, the wholesome content that people want and relate to right now.
They do want it, and they want to read what you're saying for the substance, but they also want to hear your sass, hear your experience, and they want to see your fierce ass looks as well alongside all of that. You do it so well, and people are clearly here for it because you are where you are. Within the travel, hospitality, and event sector, which you span kind of across in what you write about and how you communicate, are you seeing the change? I've been in the events industry for 20 years, so a bit of a loaded question, I guess. Are you seeing enough change?
No, and I don't think there ever will be, to be
Yeah,
honest. Um, there is a small pocket of people trying to do a lot of good.
yeah,
Um, ultimately, and no matter what sector you're in right now, I mean, we were just talking about D&I before we started this.
yeah,
Like, no matter what sector you're in, profits are over people again, and companies aren't trying to hide that fact.
yeah.
Um, not to get into it, but for me, there are so many companies that are going back to office, which is just, it blows my mind. Like that alone just says you don't really care about people. Um, from an accessibility standpoint, from a mental health standpoint, like listen to what people want. And I feel like what people want and what companies are offering right now, that gap is getting wider than it probably was pre-pandemic, if I'm honest. And that's cross industry. So our industry, yeah, there's certain companies that are really trying to be better, but ultimately it starts with paying people what they're worth. And
Mm,
that is something that the travel and hospitality sector sucks at. Like people don't work in out in and events. People don't work in those sectors for the good of their health and for a paycheck. They work in those sectors for the love of what they do and for the thrill and the serotonin. And that can only get you so far. Like, there's a reason millennials aren't on the housing market, and we all know what that is. So I just think D&I starts, you can have a D&I policy and employ people from different backgrounds and try and make that change. But if you're not paying people what they're worth, like there's companies that aren't paying people London living wage. Like for those who don't know, London living wage is 27K right now.
mm,
The fact we still have internships that are unpaid, that are not regulated in this country is disgusting.
yeah.
So there's so much work to be done across
So
every.
much work to be done. Well, if you don't already follow Thea on LinkedIn, do so for lots of practical tips, takeaways, insights, and again, fierce looks. I'm so excited to dive into your origin story. Are you ready to pause and rewind?
Oh, I love that plug. This is like the RuPaul moment. We're good to go.
Let's do this. Take me back. Tell me all about little Thea.
So, God, this is like a therapy session. So I was a very misunderstood kid in my own head. And we now would call that a trans child that didn't know the word trans, was brought up by parents with very backwards views on a lot of things. We won't give them any airtime. And I guess let's start from the playground because the playground is always a great place to start from. So I always vividly remember being a kid that was bullied by the boys and bullied by the girls. Like I literally felt like neither gender. I was just this kid that was so pure of heart and just wanted to get on with everyone. I was what I now know is mirroring. I was just trying to copy behaviors, trying to see things the way that other kids could. But even at that young age, knew that my brain was not working the same way as everyone
Mhm.
else's. And I remember going home from school after I just basically got beat on the whole day and just crying and being like, I don't know why people don't like, I don't understand. Why don't people like me? And kids are cruel ass people. Like kids are
Mhm.
savages. And kids can smell out other kids that don't fit in that environment. And this was the 90s, Hans. So it was even worse back then. And I remember my parents were like, right, you're just gonna have to fight. Like instead of like I will remember this moment for as like it's like a core locked in memory. What I needed at that point was like not cutting off my trans wings. I needed like, you are beautiful. Let's nurture you. We're gonna make you be the person you deserve to be, and we're gonna love you no matter what. Instead, it was here's a pillow. We're gonna teach you how to punch the pillow. Um, Good one. And we're gonna put you into every sport until a sport sticks. And I was like, not a sporty girly. So I remember I was doing like taekwondo, I was doing judo, I was doing tennis, I was doing blah, blah, blah. Anyway, football stuck. I hated
Okay.
it, but I was very good at it. Um, and then lo and behold, I started playing football, and suddenly the bullying stopped, and suddenly everything else stopped. And it's like, okay, this is great. And that is when the masking started really
Okay.
leveling up. So the bullying stopped. I got into sixth form, and because I played sports and I was good at it, I got a free pass. So I got to hang around with the popular girls. I was like left alone by the by the boys. I kind of like transcended lots of different social groups. And I was very lucky. I did great at school and I went to a grammar school. So there's definitely privilege there. But I hated it. Like, I hated it. I never felt like myself. I just resented education. I was like, I don't want to learn about this. I want to be out doing stuff and talking to people and just felt so caged. Um, I remember at school, like it was back in the day of the page three magazines, and the boys would all be like, oh, and the ringtones, remember the ringtones where you had to like put all the numbers in and set them all
Yeah.
up? That era. And I remember the boys came up to me in like year seven and were like, oh, what do you think of this person's um and I was like, why are you looking at a woman like that? Like clutching my metaphorical pearl. A feminist was born on day one, in the classroom in year seven when Nelly and Kelly, my boo, was playing on a Nokia 3210.
Wow. Takes me back.
Taking people back. Um, yeah, I just knew I was different. Um, but I mean, the one good thing about the education system, this is an overshare, was we had to learn Latin. And when I knew I was into men was when I was naively doing my homework on the dial-up internet modem, and I typed in Roman slaves and some gay porn came up. So that's a great origin story, isn't it?
From the through
See?
all through all of that, what was your thoughts about the world, like, and your place in it? Because those are some quite heavy feelings and experiences for a kid to go through.
Yeah, so trigger warning for anyone listening to this, suicide. So if you are triggered by that, I would probably step away right now.
Take a break. We'll put a warning on at the beginning too.
Have. So I am a survivor of suicide. So I tried to take my own life, I think in year nine, if I remember. Um, didn't do a bloody good job of it, did I? Um,
Thankfully.
my liver is buggered for life, but I am still here. And honestly, having that failed attempt, like I didn't see a way out. I didn't see the world with me in it. There was just too many differences. I couldn't vocalize why I was different. The word trans wasn't in my foresight. It wasn't in the media. I didn't know. Um, I just was like, F this, I'm out. It's not worth it because every single route I tried to fit in just didn't work. Um, so yeah, I tried that. That failed. Um, the therapy after that, because if you go through those mental health struggles, you have to do therapy. That just brought out a lot around my parents, who then didn't like that. And were like, we won't take any responsibility for this. It's all on you, Han. So that ended any relationship that was there, then there wasn't really a relationship that was there anyway. Um, and then I kind of just went into the workplace and it saved me. So we're fast forwarding like year 10, year 11. So I went, this is actually a really fun story. So I'm from Southeast London, not my original accent here. I went to an open interview when I was 15 and three quarters, at what's now the O2 Arena, um, and for a cashier position at the Tutankhamun exhibit.
Okay.
Right? Very niche, very niche.
Very.
I got pulled out of this like group interview and put into this other interview for this customer service position. Um, and then long story short, got offered this job, but I couldn't start till I was 16, which was in like a month's time. Got offered it, had like black emos in my emo phase, black emo hair. And I started working at the O2 and I was working after school in the evenings in the arena, getting to see all the concerts, dealing with all the issues, and just talking to all these people. And then I would work literally every night. And then at the weekends, I'd do double shifts. I'd work in like the call center, and then in the evening, I'd work in the arena. And for anyone that's been to the O2, like, and sat, we used to call them the gods, the top tier, the level four. When it first opened, there was no warning about vertigo on those tickets. So there was two customer service desks. There was one on level one, which was like, you're going to have a lovely time, and one on level four. And the one on level four was basically this like long ass queue of people that are like, I can't sit in these seats. I've got vertigo. I didn't know vertigo was a thing until I started working there. And we used to have like a reserve, like you'd get a different amount of tickets per show, reserved, and you had to like decide who was worthy of
Oh
these
gosh.
of these things. I'm like a 16-year-old. This is my first job. It
That's
was
quite a grown-up position to have.
so I fell into work and I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, I've got power, I've got people.
Was it the escapism as well from
Yeah,
home, which doesn't sound like it should be what it is for someone at such a young age?
100%. I loved it. It was independence.
Mm.
It was all of the horrible things that have been said to me in the microaggressions from within my own home.
Yeah.
Um, like the emotional abuse that I'd suffered from my parents my entire life without them even knowing they were doing it, which makes it even worse because you can't hold someone who doesn't know they're doing it accountable. Um, Going into a workplace and being told I'm really great, like that's my love language, hun. I'm like, yeah, I am. And it was great in one sense because I finally found a place that I was like not judged. I was being really great at what I was doing. But it also was the start of linking my self-worth to being good in the workplace.
Okay.
And I'm now 33 and I've never got over that. Again, looking back, so I started working all these shifts, getting my own money, getting my independence. I was like, I don't need education. Why am I going to go sit here and listen to this person tell me about how to do and not do things? And then this like rage for authority started coming out. So I started skipping classes. I started not going to school. I was exhausted. I couldn't manage my energy levels. Enter stage left, autism and ADHD, undiagnosed your entire life. And again, looking back as a kid, I am like,
Yep.
I should have been diagnosed by the time I was 5.
It was all there.
It was all there. And for anyone listening that doesn't know the link between those things and transness and queerness, there is a huge link between those things. Um, so yeah, I just resented everyone. I dropped A levels left, right, and center. Again, my parents pressured me to go to university, so I did. Um, but I didn't. I went to one lecture in 2 years.
Did you finish?
No. No, I went to one lecture. I passed every module because I taught myself. Um, Again, ADHD, I did everything the night before. Um, if there were I
I hear
wasn't, yeah,
ya.
like just if I wasn't deadly scared about something, it wasn't getting done. It was not priority. yeah, just drunk and got into drugs and alcohol and like the darker sides of society, I'd say. Like I was out queer clubbing at 16. Um, and that's not unheard of for like queer kids in London. Like everyone's just trying to find themselves. And yeah, I'd be up till 6 a.m. and then be in the office at 9 a.m., which we can't do anymore.
No.
We cannot do that. But yeah, it was that point in my life where I was rebelling, but I didn't know what I was rebelling from because I'd come out as a gay man at that point. And in coming out, you're meant to feel like this weight off your shoulders. And I felt more heavy. It was
Mm.
it was weird. Like it even amongst the gays in my community, which going back to my origin story, I then joined when I was 19, I joined a LGBT football club called the London Titans, who I cannot recommend highly enough. They're amazing. And if anyone here is queer and wanted to play sport and has never played sport, but you want to choose yourself and are not told by your toxic parents that you need to do it,
Yeah.
um, to get into a sport environment and rewrite perhaps some trauma around the PE rooms that you had at school, go and seek out an LGBT sports team. There are so many of them in every city.
Yeah.
I'm
Those spaces are for you.
there for everyone.
Yep.
And yeah, I played for 15, no, I can't do the maths, a lot of years, and traveled the world with these absolute numpties, and that I can call my best friends and friends for life. And that saved me a bit, but then I was hiding
Yeah.
behind, it's fine, I play sport. And honestly, there was a point that I thought that I was better than other queer people that were visibly queer
Yeah.
because, yeah, but it's fine. I still play sport. So again, I was using that trauma that I'd gone through to hide behind things, and I was masking
Yeah.
in plain sight.
Yeah, there's so many layers because there's the masking, there's the not having the language to begin with, which is a common thread on this podcast. You know, as queer people, we know we're different. But then also for yourself, it's not it's having a language, i.e. gay man, queer, but not the right language for who Thea was.
100%. I was the most toxic gay man. And I am so happy to admit that. I was like the Clapham gay that was in the Brewers every Friday and Saturday. Like I had severe drug problems. I still struggle with drug problems now, but again, all linked to ADHD and self-medicating. Um, I didn't know who I was. And I remember going to therapy like a few times because anyone that hasn't done therapy, you going to a therapist is not what you need. You need to find the right therapist. I didn't know that at the time. I hadn't found the right therapist yet. But one of the things we did unpack, and I've done a lot of work on, was that me resenting that people that were able to be so queer um so authentic, and I didn't know why, and I still didn't get to the answer that I was trans AF in those therapy sessions, but it planted the seed for sure. Because I'd lock up around these people, and my it was like my brain was telling me one thing but my body was telling me another thing. um I didn't know the word trans really. I hadn't really like done that much research into it. And my origin story, like my origin of being Thea's story, was during the lockdown, I was watching Drag Race and I saw Bimini on it. And literally, I swear, Bimini must have cracked so many eggs. Um, because they just in how eloquently they described what non-binary was, I was like, oh my gosh,
That's
that
me.
that is not only me, but is that has just described who I've been my entire life in two words, like non-binary. And I literally went onto ASOS, bought a dress, and I still have this dress in my closet. Um, Next day delivery, walked out the door. That was
Wow.
that was me. I was like, I am so certain this is me. I was in my toxic parents' house in Southeast London in a place that you don't be doing that. And I just went into town, met my friends in town, and no one batted an eyelid. This is the worst part. Everyone was like, "Hun, we knew." And it's so funny because I never knew. I never
Yeah,
knew. And if only you could see yourself how others see you sometimes, you know?
for sure. Did you say, you said that the therapy kind of gave you a little bit of an inkling of maybe there's more to this, and then that was the moment that you had the language. Did Was there an in-between point where you had started to calm and things became more settled, maybe in your mind, maybe around you as a result?
No.
No.
No, it's honestly, once I knew, I almost became more angry. It was a period of anger. It was a period of anger towards the people that have failed me in my life. Um, Everyone from failing me as a kid to enablers in my life that I mean, it's not on someone to go, you're a trans woman, like, but when you're a kid and you're vulnerable and you're displaying these behaviors, it is on people to protect you. Um, and I was so obviously trans autistic kid, like so obviously. I remember as a kid, I had to, I mean, it's the 90s, it's toxic. It was the boys' happy meal and the girls' happy meal. Like, where's the non-binary happy meal at, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and I used to have to ask my dad to go into McDonald's and they would go, "Have you got a boy or a girl for the Happy Meal?" And I had to get him to go, "I've got a girl," because I wanted to play with the Barbies. Like, I don't want a Hot Wheel. And that was like the earliest societal, you can only be one of these two boxes.
Yeah. Can we talk about your parents?
We can.
Just I know that it's not I know that we're not giving them too much airtime. Have you been able to process and maybe forgive and heal a bit? Have you had conversations? Where does it currently sit?
So I identify as self-orphaned at this point in my life.
Okay.
So I went no contact with my parents just over 2 years ago, maybe 3 years. Which honestly has been the best thing I've ever done in my life.
I mean, I don't have a relationship with my mum, and I can say the same.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where when I tell people that story, people are like, "Oh, because the trans thing." I'm like, no.
Mm,
Actually, of all of the things, they're totally fine
right.
with me being trans, with me being non-binary, totally fine. But the damage was done. So, like, from a young age, it was the emotional abuse.
Yeah.
It's the I've got one of my parents is a narcissist, and the other one is an enabler, and I am I'm the one that takes all the heat in the family, and it was damning to my mental health. And I just refused. I just said no at one point. I said no. I said, I'm not trying to be controlled as a 30-year-old adult via WhatsApp messages. Like, no, Hans, we're not doing that. And lo and behold, I've been able to do the most I've ever done and the most growth I've ever done because I've just focused on me. And for anyone that's worrying, as a queer person, I have chosen family and I have people here that would die for me, and I'm the same for them. And they're not even in the same city as me right now. Like I'm up in Glasgow and I know like three people from coming here. And I still feel loved and I still feel I'm still the happiest I've ever been in my life. Um yeah, that's where we're at.
Thank you for sharing. And I know that's hard, having my own personal experience with that. I know it's hard. And again, same for me, it's not the queerness, it's the other damage. It's the other damage that lingers and that I can't actually forgive. Um,
Yeah,
I can heal from it, but it's other stuff.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's again, there's lots of people that wish they were able to do that, but for society's told you you have to act a certain way.
Yeah.
for anyone listening that is really going through stuff, like being an orphan's wonderful.
That's it. That's it. The rhetoric of you've only got one mum or you only got one
Oh,
dad. It's no, no. I'm going to ask you about sayings that we'd put in the bin later. That's probably one that I'd throw
that
in.
is one of
That's yeah.
them.
Um, let's focus on chosen family. Couldn't live without mine. Wouldn't be the person I am without mine, and the love they bring. And I know that you are so loved by people around you. Me included, by the way. Is there someone who has shaped you the most along the way?
Oh, that's a really good question. Honestly, I mean, maybe I'm the narcissist.
Are you gonna say me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, look, there are people that have helped me. Um, like Corky, one of my best mates, she savage with fashion advice. With she was the first person that I came into a job and hungover, stinking of cigarettes, um, looked at me and she just looked at me and went, "Have a mint, hun. Have a mint." And that was my first, like, first day on the job with her. Ever since then, has been reading me to filth and keeping me accountable and being like, that top, babe, are we, I support you, but are we going to be wearing that today?" She saw me. She was the first person that saw me. Um, and she basically, in no uncertain terms, said, "You're better than this. You don't need to behave like this around me." Um, and she's given me tough love throughout my career and continues to do so, even from another city. And I wouldn't change her for the world.
Big love to Corky.
Yeah, big love to Corky. And it's there's other people in my life. Like, actually, one good point here is everyone I've met in my circle are either through queer sports environments or workplaces, and just finding your person in those setups. And my little group in London is 5 people that never knew each other, that have all been like linked together. 3 of us have got birthdays within a day of each other. We're the cancer crew, we're all crabs. Um, and it's just beautiful. We're from different places in the country. And yeah, it just works. It's awesome.
I think your story just really highlights the fact that things are not always conventional, whether that's family makeups or friend systems. I'm the same. I don't have best friends or people that I'm close to from secondary school or even primary school or even university, actually. They're people I've met through life, either work or extracurricular shit, partying. And I still feel just as loved. It's not probably what people expect, and it's not necessarily what we deserve, but it's still valid.
100%. I love that for you. And you are so loved.
Uh,
Um, I guess what I'd also say on that as well is I never really got like internet friends. I never really got the concept of that until I lent into my neurodiversity. And some of my strongest relationships, I would have never said this a few years ago. I've not met some of the people that I value most in my life in real life. Like, it might be some episode of Catfish up in here right now, but seriously, there are some people that we've just like found each other online,
yeah.
and the like daily affirmations and the love that we give, like, I'm giving these strangers that I've never met, and they're giving it back to me. And I've had phone calls with people when I don't have the energy to go out, I'll do like a video chat like this. It's people always think of conventional relationships. Let's take that one step further. Like, internet relationships are really fucking cool too.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely here for it. There's a real beauty in it. I'm gonna wrap this final segment up, if that's
Sure.
okay. I just want to ask you two questions. Does happiness and success look and feel how you thought it would?
No, fuck no. So happiness and success do not look or feel how I thought they would. Firstly, if you find success, please tell me, because that is something that we are constantly chasing in life.
Mm,
You can be successful in certain areas of your life, but I think success as a word, you never you define what that is, you know? So what you define as successful, someone else might not. Like, for me, success is, I want to be mediocre. I want to be, I want to be the Cheryl Hole.
I knew
Yeah.
you were about to mention Cheryl Hole.
Oh, Cheryl Hole. Shares if you're listening, honey. I want to be the Cheryl Hole of LinkedIn. Like, I just want to be mediocre. And as trans people, we don't get that
Mm.
privilege. So
Held to a higher account on so many things.
have to be. What was the other word we were looking at? Successful and happy.
Happiness.
Happiness is I'm constantly chasing it.
Hmm.
Being trans, so side story, I never had gender dysphoria. I never looked in the mirror and when that's not right. And that a lot of trans people had that. I never had that. For me, I felt like I was living my life through cellophane. I felt like I was present, but I wasn't. There was like something stopping me from being visible and seen and present. And that was very much my hormones. So I figured, hey, let's take estrogen and see what that does. Now, I did not go into this. Went into this knowing that there was going to be physical changes, but they weren't my core reason for doing this. And now, ironically, since I've now started having these physical changes, I'm like looking in the mirror, like,
The,
yes,
the euphoria, I guess, is yeah.
yeah. But with it, I need to now get everything done because apparently I did have an image in my head, back, locked away somewhere. And that happiness is something I'm chasing from a physical standpoint because I dream of a world where I don't get, it's not unclockable because I don't ever want to,
Hmm.
like, I'm not non-binary. Not that non-binary has a look. Let me start that sentence again. I never, I want to walk down the street and just not get looked at.
Yeah.
Um, and there's certain masculine features on my face right now that I would love them not to be that. So that happiness is definitely linked to an aesthetic for me, but internally, I am the most happy I've ever been. I'm still an asshole through and through, but I'm a lovely one.
You are lovely. I would never describe you as an arsehole, but this is your story. Final question for this segment. Looking back, what are you most proud of to date?
But I kept going. Like I kept going. I remember there was a turning point. So I had worked at a company for 6 years. My body broke. I had a ton of operations. Ended up back at my parents' house, which is not a place I wanted to be. And then I was there on my meds, and I basically had to leave the company because they wouldn't let me work from home. Um, and I run out of sick leave. And I remember that point. I was like, okay, you can either fight and choose yourself at this point, or you can just go into another toxic job. And at that point, that's when I decided to set up Lightning. I literally did not have a business plan. I just bought a website domain. I wrote the website front end to back end. I went onto Canva, which wasn't even that big at the time, and I built out this lightning bolt and wrote Lightning is coming. I went onto a website and got some um business cards, and then I literally got my brother to physically post 100 of these like lightning is coming with my business cards out to people that I wanted to work with, and that's where I won my first client.
I love
Like,
it.
yeah, I just chose me, and I just went, I'm not gonna be, if this fails, this fails, but I'm not letting other people knock me down anymore.
The House of Happiness is London's ultimate sober clubbing extravaganza. We're led and delivered but created for all, whether teetotal, sober curious, or just taking a booze snooze. We love a day rave, and on a Saturday afternoon you can expect banging house tunes, DJs on decks, dancers on podiums, and a fully stocked alcohol-free bar. Flamboyant, bold, with a glitter station to boot. We're all about safe, inclusive fun, and we even have a pre-meet so that you can make new sober buddies before you hit the dance floor. Grab your tickets from Instagram now at House of Happiness Official, and we'll see you on the dance floor. Thea, are you ready for some quick fire questions?
How quick are they gonna be?
Well, let's see. Let's see how quick we get through them. It's me and you, so you never know. What album, book, or movie has had a lasting impact on you?
I'm gonna say a TV series because why not? Like Sense8, I absolutely
Oh, wow.
Sense8 is like that blew my mind. It blew my mind. Yeah, Sense8 was a thing that I remember watching it and just the like queer, you could just tell it was written by queer people. And
Yes.
it turned out to be written by, I can never pronounce her last name, but the trans sisters that wrote the
Wazowski?
Yeah, I think that's right. That wrote The Matrix, and it was just the most beautifully done series. And it was one of the most expensive Netflix series ever watched, ever written, made. That's the answer. Because it was all shot on location. And for me, it was so cool seeing it because I'd been to every location, which was really, really cool. So I felt like I was there. And then honestly, like the sex scenes in that.
They were steamy.
But anyone that hasn't watched it, it's like six people from all different backgrounds, like having these weird orgies together with these amazing soundtracks. And that was really empowering for me. I was just like, wow, look, all of these people are different, but they're connected by their minds and somehow in life. And now they're like physically connecting. It was just beautiful.
What's the saying that you live by?
Am I going to have to remember the saying? Is disappoint as many people in your life as possible because the alternative is disappointing yourself. And honestly, so it's a Glennon Doyle quote. And again, queer woman, we love. And I only heard that phrase like 18 months ago. And the second I heard it, I was like, frame it, put that on a t-shirt because I have been, I'm a recovering people pleaser, and I've been that my whole life. And when I heard that phrase, it just changed me. I was like, this is the best advice that anyone's given to me, and I've not even met this person.
Mm.
And that is now what I strive to do. Like, I say no to the invites because I don't want to do it. I say F off to working with someone because I don't want to do it. Like, I say yes to the things that I'm very present in my decision making now. Um, I'm doing things for me finally, and I don't have survivor's guilt of doing that because in my past, I've always been told that choosing myself is inherently selfish.
Yeah.
That word is so triggering to me, and it all goes back to childhood, as always. But that yeah, that Glennon Doyle quote is just like disappointing people. I continue to. I take pride in it.
Well, hey. I suppose it speaks to so many different things around boundaries, self-kindness, self-love, not being afraid to say no. Yeah,
100
brilliant.
100%. And I guess, yeah, any phrase around blood is thicker than water, or like it'll all be worth it in the end. Like sometimes no, it won't,
Yeah,
Hans. Actually,
straight in
like
the bin.
yeah, in the bin.
What has been the best adventure of your life so far?
Getting a vagina for sure. Um,
Like,
and it didn't come with a user manual, so we're still that's still an adventure. Um, but yeah, like that was wild. That was fully wild. Again, if you told me 3 years ago that that would be where I'm at, I would have laughed in your face. But yeah, it just felt right at the time. I had the means and the will to do it, and I went out to Madrid and had my chosen family come out, and I put them through hell. Um, they were really worried about me. It's like a 14-hour operation, and I then spent 6 weeks in an Airbnb in Madrid by myself watching Pokemon. Um, so that was an adventure, and it continues to be an adventure for me because I just feel like it, I've always had that. Um, and having having bottom surgery for a trans person, it does not define you as a trans person because it's very much about privilege with
Mm,
and desire. Um, and lots of trans girlies love their bananas, so like more power to them. But for me, it's just yeah, it's the start of my adventure because it's just going to allow me to really be present and be myself going forwards.
beautiful. My final quickfire question for you is what three words would you use to describe you and your origin story?
Traumatic, chaotic, and survivor, I'm gonna go with.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing.
Oh my gosh, I had the most fun. Do you
Let-
charge that therapy session or
It's all free for you, but we're going to fast forward a little bit if that's okay.
okay, great.
What exciting things do you have coming up?
Oh, I am saving up for my facial feminization surgery. So I have my consultation with a doctor next week, which is so exciting. Honestly, I'm planning my life around that right now. It's probably going to be around 20 grand, which I don't have. So we're going to be setting up a GoFundMe. So if anyone's listening to this and I have a GoFundMe out at that time,
Ping
throw
ping.
out some coin. And it's going to be in Marbella. So it's basically a holiday.
That is definitely something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Amazing. What brings you joy, Thea?
Honestly, seeing myself in whatever form that is back in the mirror, looking back in the mirror at me, like that brings me so much joy right now. And just knowing that I chose myself. There was a point that a previous version of me, because let's be honest, we're all different versions of ourselves on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. But a version of me at some point in my timeline decided to choose me. That previous version of me that chose me and continues to choose me on a daily basis, that is joy to me.
I choose me.
Yeah.
What takeaways do you have listening for anyone wanting to uh, create a bit of an inclusive space or to kind of like empower inclusion in others?
I would always say, to be truly inclusive, it's to go out of your way to create those spaces for people that aren't in your current network and aren't maybe not in your workplace. So yeah, if you're in a workplace environment and you don't have any employees over the age of 40, put in a really great menopause policy. Like show your intent. If you don't have any out trans people, put in a great trans inclusion policy. Like, don't just serve the people that are in your eye line. Um, and again, ask people, like, don't have one size fits all policies. Really have one-on-one conversations with staff and people in your network to find out what they actually want because hun, they don't want cinema vouchers. I can tell you that now. They
My final question for you is, do you have any words of encouragement or wisdom for anyone out there to help them get to wherever they're going?
yeah, sit down and have a talk with yourself. It's the noise from other people telling you what you should and shouldn't do and should behave that is the most toxic thing in your life right now. Even from well-meaning people, sit down, listen to yourself, give yourself that space, and decide what you want to do because you want to do it. And that's the best advice I can give anyone.
Thea, I'm so grateful for this time. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that you are still here and all the fucking amazing stuff that you put out there. Just thanks for being you.
And likewise, and you've been the bestest ally and the bestest person that I know in my network. So you've always been a great supporter of me, and I will always be grateful for that. And we've still not had that bloody night out.
We'll
So
get it. I'm coming up to Glasgow. See you soon. Thanks so much.
bye.
I mean, I could have spent the whole day chatting to Thea. It is never a dull moment when we are together. Um, I really value Thea being so vulnerable and authentic always, but particularly during this conversation, the three words that Thea uses to describe their origin story: traumatic, chaotic, and survivor. And you can see the threads of all of those throughout Thea's story. And the words that sent a bit of a chill up me was the moment that Thea decided that I choose me, and they decided to put themselves first. And as well as, just, the fact that they've never given up, they've come through everything to be the person that they are. And I'm just so grateful that Thea is here to share their light and their joy. And yeah, just very real about the fact that we can all still be arseholes sometimes. And just living your authentic truth and being uplifted by chosen family, the importance of chosen family and the love that they bring. And Thea is living her best life, happiest life as themselves and who they are right now. And it was great to hear about their gender euphoria. When I asked about the best adventure of their life so far, that they're just very candid response, getting a vagina. So I hope that you loved that conversation as much as I did. Thea, thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, share with those that you think might be interested in listening, and stay tuned for more amazing guests on Pause and Rewind. Thank you.